Good job. This week is Parshas Vayishlach. And as with other stories in the Torah, we could draw parallels between what happened in ancient times with our forefathers and that which is happening today. In this week's portion, we actually have two different battles that Yaakov faces. One is he's going to be attacked by Esav. He perceives that he's going to be attacked by Esav with 400 men, and he prepares for war or for escape. And the second instance is after the rape of Dinah. That's what I wanted to focus on today. Dinah, his daughter, is raped by Shechem, the son of Chamar, and Yaakov sits and waits for his children to come, and then his children devise a plan, without telling him, it seems, that they're going to agree that Dinah should marry Shechem, who had raped her, and he had asked for her hand in marriage. But they ask of them that they should circumcise. And on the third day of their circumcision, when they're weak, Shimon and Levi, two brothers, come in and wipe out the whole city. And Yaakov's reaction is he's upset. He says the people, the surrounding nations, the surrounding people are going to come and attack us. You should not necessarily have gone to such extremes. And the answer that Shimon and Levi give are Hakazona Yasasachenu. Should we treat our sister as a harlot? In other words, we have to stand on principle. And it goes on to say that nothing happens, that Yaakov and his children are leave the area, and nobody actually fights the war with them. And the fact is that the Torah gives the last word of saying they're protecting the dignity of their sister. That's the last word in this section, and nothing else is said. It doesn't give Yaakov the last word, except in Parshas Vayechi later on, before Yaakov's dying, he gives blessings to everyone, but to Shimon and Levi, who are the ones who kill out the city of Shechem, to those he says, you have vessels of war, of violence. Kiva apam hargu ish, you killed a man or men in your anger. And he's, in a sense, while he's blessing the children, he sort of slides in a curse for Shimon and Levi. So you could argue that the Torah gives the last word to Yaakov. What I would like to just suggest is that we see in this portion the dilemma that people face throughout time. And I'm not drawing an exact parallel between what's happening in Israel and Gaza today, although there are some parallels. But of course, the nature of war in ancient times was different. The laws that guided different nations and how they attacked were different. The assumptions of what was okay and what was allowed and what was not allowed are very different than they are today. And of course, there's also different influences that we have from different nations around us. But I would only like to suggest that you see those dilemmas really existed even in earlier times. Yaakov was understandably upset that his daughter was raped, but he wasn't sure what he could do about it. He wasn't sure if this was the right time to go in and to attack the city of Shechem. We don't really know. Maybe he didn't even think it was the right thing to do at all, not just because he was afraid. Shimon and Levi, on the other hand, were standing on principle. Yaakov he didn't tell them off for what they did in theory, but rather because he was afraid that they were too weak and the other nations around them would attack them. So it's some of what goes on today, where we feel that we have to stand up for principle, or in this case, in Israel's case, it's self-defense. It's not just principle. And we're afraid of what the other nations are going to think, whether it's the Arab nations around us, whether it's the United States or Europe or the UN. And there's an element within us that says, no, we have to do it no matter what. And then the question is, are we able to do it? Or are we able to be successful? And there's no real good answer, except every situation has to be judged at its time. Shimon and Levi, made certain assumptions or they stood on principles, they were successful. Was it because they were stronger than Yaakov thought? Was it because you have to stand on principle no matter what? Was it because God was on their side? Was Yaakov wrong when he curses them later in life? It's not very clear. You have an example of Avram earlier when there's a battle between the 4 kings and the 5 kings. The 4 kings come from the north and attack the cities of Sodom and Amorah and other cities around them and take Lot as a hostage. And Avram's reaction right away after he finds out that Lot was taken captive, he goes with 318 men and goes to war and battles them. Again, 318 men against 4 strong armies seems to be the odds are against him. There's no criticism of Avram. He doesn't show any fear. God seems to be with him. Afterwards, God says to him, Anochi magen lecha scharcha harbe ma'od. I am protecting you. Your reward will be very great. So we don't always know the answer. I just want to present the problem. There's never a simple answer to these questions. We could learn from stories of the Torah, not always the solution, because every individual case is different. Times have changed. The laws of the international laws, which of course never existed, are now different than they were then. Self-defense certainly is the most important rule. But the question is, will you be successful? Will you be taking more of a chance by going to war and worrying about what the other nations are going to think? Will the U.S. still support? Will they supply arms? Will we lose our allies? These are all questions which are very difficult. Personally, my belief is what Israel is doing now is justified, and it's the correct thing to do. But I'm certainly no expert in areas of war or politics, and those that are make mistakes sometimes. But from the vantage point that I have and others have, it seems that it's the correct thing to do. Sometimes you have to stand not just for principle, for life, for defense, and the risks that you take are necessary. But again, look in the Torah, and there's many other stories in the Torah later on about different wars and how the Jewish people, God and their spiritual advisors approach war, and these are the dilemmas that we face on a hopefully it's not a daily basis, but we face quite often. And Israel is being challenged. So often it's hard to even imagine. But we have to go through these challenges. We have to take these dilemmas. We have to think about our principles. We have to think about morality and ethics. We have to know the political situation, and hard decisions must be made. And hopefully the right decisions are made. As I speak now, the war is now again raging in Israel, and hopefully the outcome will be one that will be satisfactory to Israel, will defend the Jewish people, and will come out eventually living in peace once again. Good Shabbos.